Hello everybody, Dave Neal here, stand-up comic and host of Bachelorette Recaps. Are you guys ready for a new season of Bachelorette? I know I am. It's been a both very long and short off-season. We had two back-to-back seasons in a row after the pandemic pushed back last year's content schedule. And now, after the break that we have, we will start on June 7th with Katie Thurston's season, go right into Bachelor in Paradise in August, and then right into Michelle's season after that. And look, before you know it, it'll be Christmas 2021. The world's flying by. Now, in this recap video, in this episode, I will be talking about Matt James. As you can read the title, he messed up, Bachelor Matt James, doing everything to win back ex Rachael Kirkconnell after he broke her trust with other women. So we'll talk about this briefly, and then I'm going to talk about how Reality Steve played a role in this trust being broken by sort of bringing together the other lady and that conversation that happened. And then after, we'll talk about not just about getting the spoilers wrong, but about the collateral damage that comes along with outing people, bringing up their history and whatnot. So it's more of an ethical question about how we want to move forward in 2021 with dealing with a reality TV show and people that were just normal citizens trying the best with the information they have, and then they're sprung into the spotlight and in some cases having their character exposed and demolished. So let's get right into this video here. This was a report over the weekend that Matt James, and again, these sources, who knows who they are, it could be hogwash, but it says he's trying to get Rachael back. As we know, we saw this photo, I think Friday night this broke, of them at a taco shop in hanging out in I think Newport Beach with, you got the little fisherman Grim Reaper right there. If that's not a bad omen, I don't know what is. Tough tides, brave the storm. It's hurricane season, Matt James. So anyway, they're trying to work it out, Matt's doing everything in his power to win Rachael back, a source exclusively told The Sun. The insider explains he knows he messed up and broke her trust. He got caught and he's trying to fix the mess he made. She keeps vowing to not take him back, but each time she still does. She really believes Matt is her person and doesn't want to give him up, even though her family is skeptical. I'm in the place now where it's like, look, she's 23, 24, he's late 20s. If there's any time in your life to have a relationship that you look back on and wondering, like, what was I thinking? It's your 20s. So if she needs to figure out who she is, and if he needs to figure out who he is, let them do it. If that means there was some trust that was violated, if that means there's a couple red flags, paint them white, baby. If they keep on showing up, you'll know that it's not you, that it's the actual red flags. It's hard to manage this situation. It's a black swan event. The fact that she was exposed for her past after he was the first black or interracial bachelor. I mean, it is quite an event that happened. So the reason why the trust was broken was because Grace Amerling. This is the next TMZ clip here. So Grace Amerling she's an equestrian in Florida. She contacts Reality Steve saying, hey, if Matt James is trying to get back with Rachael Kirkconnell, I got some receipts showing he's trying to hang out with me too. So Reality Steve does an Instagram live with Grace and kind of exposes Matt for two-timing. Now, we don't exactly know that was the case. It may have been the case, but it may have been the case that him and Rachael were on Splitsville and they were on life support and he was trying to contact other people. We don't know. I'm not apologizing for him. I'm just saying we need, as an audience, to do our best to critically think and say, oh, there's some smoke there. There might be some fire, but who am I to put out the flames of that fire? We really just don't know. So was Reality Steve responsible for how this all went down? In a way, I guess Grace could have contacted Rachael herself. This could have been worked out easily without all of the public knowing, but I guess that's what we're here for. We're rubbernecking this car crash. So this was they were seen sort of TMZ took some photos of them. Let's see, this is them. It's pretty obvious. No offense to Matt James, but he's a tall man with a bushy beard. It's very obvious to recognize him. I think Rachael could go incognito way easier with the mask situation and all. I mean, she does have the eyebrows that give her away, but either way, they're a hot couple. I think this is probably paparazzi chasing them down. Maybe it's a friend, who knows? But they're trying to work things out, and of course, we know how the story all went down. So there's Grace. It looked like she really came off well, and she didn't really want to have to deal with the issues that she was dealing with. But she said it just didn't sit right with me. I just felt like Rachael was so in love with with him, and for him to be trying to contact me and hang out with me, someone he's had past romantic relationships with 2 days prior in Miami, I felt like I had to say something for Rachel's sake. She added, Rachel is the real victim here. Look, it's another scenario in which maybe if this wasn't handled in the public eye, it'd be easier for her to write it off or have that conversation with Matt. All I can say is this: the fact that Rachael Kirkconnell is still talking to Matt shows us that we don't know the full side of the story. And that's just where it has to be. That's where it has to be. Grace has her side. Maybe he's got his. The truth is probably somewhere in the middle. We just don't know. Now, here's where it kind of shifts over to Reality Steve. And I fully believe Reality Steve should have the platform that he has. Truth is, he built it. He built his platform with like almost 2 decades worth of content, and the audience has consumed it. He has the right to his platform. People now are starting to look at the receipts of sort of the way he has acted in the past, and it is worth addressing, and it is worth knowing that if you don't want to support that style of opinions, that style of outing spoilers, or finding information, or whatever, you have the right to not support that. And that's what some Bachelor Instagram channels are doing. There's been a few different Bachelor Instagram channels that have said, look, we're not going to be taking spoilers from Reality Steve anymore because of the way he has acted X, Y, and Z, which I'll talk about right now.
All that type of shit that you're reading is like taking me back to those times where it was just like the devaluation of my body as a woman.
So Reality Steve has gotten a lot of criticism recently from the Chatty Broads, which, fantastic ladies podcasting, and pulling up the receipts. I think they were pulled up on Reddit of some of the blogs from Reality Steve's past, in which he issued this apology this last week. Wanted to address my past writings that were brought to light again today on a podcast. There was no excuse for them. I'm embarrassed. I thought that way. I'm embarrassed. I wrote it, and ever since I've done whatever I could to change that line of thinking. Those that have followed me in recent years have recognized the change in my blog and my tweets and on my podcast. While it should have been removed earlier, they are currently being removed from my site. I've never shied away from acknowledging these writings and will always apologize for them. I do not think that way anymore, and I hope my behavior in recent years has proven that. I'm sorry to anyone who had to read those things, and I am and will continue to do better. Honestly, we like this apology. I'll continue to apologize. I was wrong. I can say this too as a stand-up comedian. You evolve as who you are, as what you think is funny, as what you think is edgy, as what you think is right. We all evolve as humans. It's a shame that sometimes there are timestamps of what we said or did in the past, but for the most part, normal people in society can go to the grocery store and not be judged for things they said 10 or 15 years ago. Or even in his case, I think up to 18 years ago, which is a good thing. It's good to judge people for who they are now and not who they used to be, because in most cases, people understand, oh my gosh, I can't believe I thought that way in high school. Oh my gosh, in college, I was called out for saying that and I didn't know that was the thing. You just, come on, we're all that way, folks. Glass houses, right? So let's do some critical thinking and realize we've all evolved in our way of thinking. And sometimes as recently as the last year or 2 years, some say, well, but you still felt this way 6 months ago. Look, some people, that's when they made their change. Oh, you went to a plantation party? It was only 2 years. Look, hey, who am I? You know what I mean? Who am I to judge when it was that you learned to be more evolved, enlightened, or what have you? I've been accused of being way too giving of people in understanding of their apologies and going, hey, maybe Taylor Nolan, as hurtful as her tweets were, maybe she thought she was being edgy and she just didn't know what a punchline was. You know what I mean? So I've operated, and this is part of my 4 agreements, which I talked about on the Cassie Randolph video from a few days ago. Part of the 4 agreements is to not be offended by things. And I'm not telling you not to be offended. I'm just saying you live a much better life when you don't get offended by things other people do, because you have the power to control your emotions. It doesn't mean that you don't want others to do better and that you don't want to put your money and give your money to a company you don't like. Vote with your dollar, share your message, try to get change. Absolutely. But with that said, if someone apologizes, you have to take them for their word. Now, what happened after this was that, let's see, let me go to the Demi one here. Let's see if I can find this one. Is this the one? Bachelor star Demi Burnett says Reality Steve made an unwanted and unprompted sexual advance towards her. Now, this happened 7 months ago-ish, around then. So the idea that he changed, she goes, hold my, strawberry Mai Tai or whatever she's drinking over there. She probably has that fancy, just, one of those fish bowls that you drown in. imagine you're on Bachelor in Paradise. Have the sugary drink. You won't feel a hangover the next morning if you don't wake up. Sleep in, folks. I don't get hangovers. I sleep till noon. Not me, up at 6 a.m. doing videos for you. Dale's Toes. So, if you guys have been hanging around, hopefully this all ties together. Demi was like, look, you called me because you probably didn't want to text me this because I'd have the receipts. You called me and told me this sex stream you had about me. And he thought and then he apologized for that, saying, hey, I thought that was okay. I didn't realize I'm, whatever. And then you talk about positions of power, and positions of power isn't always a boss in an employee situation. So people have unearthed these scenarios in which contestants have had to deal with Reality Steve because he has the platform to change public perception about people and not always do it for good. So with Matt James' scenario, maybe it was okay to have Grace on and share her side of the story and get this all out there. But when does the show end and the contestants then go on with their life? And I'm guilty of, discussing these events as well. I've always said, if this is like a marathon, Reality Steve's in the front of the pack. I'm standing behind him drafting, which is what you do when the wind hits Reality Steve. It doesn't hit me. So then it's a little easier for me. I like the position of drafting. I like commenting on things that already exist. But if given some of the receipts I'm about to share with you, I don't think I would choose to share them. I don't think I would choose to share allegations that would defame somebody, knowing that, everyone has skeletons in their closet. And just because you decide to go on a reality TV show doesn't always mean the world needs to know who you used to be or your ugly past. It just doesn't give anyone the right. But once it's out there, we've seen how sloppy the Bachelor franchise can be with Brittany Galvin, promoting the fact that she may or may not be an escort. And then afterwards, we find out she immediately says that's not even true. So we see how kind of like how the collateral damage of drama and gossip on the show can affect people in real life. Now, this might just be me coming from someone who doesn't quite have 30,000 YouTube subscribers. I think we're going to hit it today. Hit the subscribe button. But as a smaller YouTube channel, maybe the truth is people want the Reality Steve version where they want the gossip, the drama, the juice, the tea, and they don't care the collateral damage. But I generally think most people want the ethical, responsible, let's talk about things, but let's know when we cross the line. Take Katie Thurston, for example. She crossed the line in her own eyes on this past season with bullying of Sarah Trott. And then afterwards, she goes, you know what? It just didn't sit right with me. So she went back and apologized. I'm okay apologizing if I've ever crossed the line when we've gotten too personal with some of these contestants, and just knowing look, if there's a story that's going to harm somebody and it's worth sharing because it helps other people, fine. But in a lot of these personal cases, it's I think we need to take the foot off the gas on some of these scenarios. So Reality Steve apologized, but you have to realize there's been instances where maybe he's been the target of people giving him misinformation because they know he's the spoiler guy. So Bachelor Star was cleared a year, after Reality Steve admits he wronged Jenna Cooper. So what happened here? And a lot of people don't even know this story because it's just the media cycle. Just, by the time you rescind a story, we're on to the next thing. It feels amazing to be completely vindicated after all this time, Cooper told the News and Observer on Thursday. It all started when Jenna Cooper became engaged to fellow Paradise star Jordan Kimball in the season finale episode of the show. Steve Carbone, a blogger known as Reality Steve, who built his following on spoiling outcomes of The Bachelor and all of its offshoots, broke a story claiming to have incriminating text between Cooper and another man he called a sugar daddy. The text proved, he claimed, that Cooper had been in another relationship the whole time she was involved in her on-screen romance with Kimball. Cooper denied the allegations and even had her phone examined by experts who said the text messages did not come from her phone. I'll admit, it's accusations can be damning. I believed that she cheated on Jordan myself. I didn't do these sort of recap videos back in the day, so I didn't make any content on it. But we're simple minds, and we're a lot of times we trust what we see, and even if it's not even true. So the backlash she got was insane. Cooper, who had been a fan favorite while on season 22 of The Bachelor, was attacked and threatened online. Her reputation was damaged. Lawyers were involved. The problem: Carbone, Steve, never named his sources for the text. All of his reporting was based on anonymous tips. But still, many people, Jordan Kimball included, believe the blogger who repeatedly defended his reports. I understand that journalists don't give up their sources, because then you have a right to not give up your source. But the idea that just because a source is anonymous to the public doesn't mean you don't vet that source yourself as a journalist. In traditional media, you vet the source. You have multiple sources. You triangulate by having multiple corroborating sources. So to just have a source come out with damning text messages, we live in a world where that is very easy to fabricate and very easy to fool people. So he admitted he was wrong and removed all the stories from his website that contain allegations against Cooper, but it's almost like too little too late, You can apologize for that type of stuff, but you don't get many second chances as a journalist. So the idea that people look at Reality Steve, it's like, look, are you going to spoil the show and release spoilers about the show, or are you like a journalist? Like, which one is it? Do you give opinions? Are you a journalist, or are you a spoiler guy? Which one is it? And that's kind of the question that people have. So again, these websites are pretty horrible, to be honest, but this is the only place I could find this information. Bachelor Nick Viall confronts Reality Steve, accuses him of false reporting. So as we know, the reporting was false with the Jenna Cooper situation. That's accurate. That's an accurate statement from Nick, that the reporting was false. The question obviously becomes, did Reality Steve do it on purpose? My thought, as always, is that give someone the benefit of the doubt. He probably saw this salacious text and was so excited because he knew he was going to literally crash his servers over this info that he ran with the story too soon, which happens in journalism, especially in today's world. People run with these anonymous sources way too often. And honestly, we need a better system to sort of give people speeding tickets for having a faulty source. There should be a consequence. I mean, Reality Steve made a lot of money, I'm sure, off of this story. And then in the aftermath, Jenna just lost money. She lost her relationship. She lost money. Maybe she's better off now because of it, but that's not the point. She shouldn't have had to make that choice. So Nick Viall talked to Reality Steve about his blog, which was very fascinating. I found out Reality Steve started his blog with the show Joe Millionaire. If you're my age or older, you know Joe Millionaire. He was supposed to be but what a horrible show. I loved it. He was supposed to be a millionaire, so all the girls thought he was this millionaire living in a chateau, and it turns out he worked in construction and did underwear modeling, and they only got to keep the money if they decided to stay together. Fantastic show. It was a one and done. He started recapping The Bachelor after that, so he's recapped The Bachelor for 18 years now, and he became a spoiler sensation. Sources would email him incredible stories, and he would report on them, and that's fine. That's fair. So Nick Viall confronted Reality Steve about these personal attacks. Nick actually called Reality Steve out over a story that was inaccurately reported. I'm assuming it's the Jenna Cooper one. It might have been one about Nick, something else. And while the information was false, this was a different story because this was about Nick. While the information was false about Nick, Steve had already made the situation right by deleting and apologizing. According to Nick, a mutual friend contacted Steve and told him the original source was not credible. A year later, Steve deleted the blog. A year later, Nick also says the apology was only half sincere. Steve disagrees. The most upsetting part for Nick was the big leak about his conversation on an airplane about Andy Dorfman. Nick obviously wasn't aware someone was recording that conversation to send to Steve. This was one situation Steve really lucked out on. I mean, define lucked out, you know what I mean? Steve said it truly impacted him personally. Nick said it truly impacted him personally. He was even terrified ABC could sue him over the leak. He ultimately asked Steve why he doesn't like him. Steve told him there was just something about him that lit his fire. Therefore, whenever Steve was presented with anything negative on Nick, he ran with it. He went more for negative stories on Nick than positive ones. No, so Steve has the right to do this. You can share tea. You don't have the right to slander someone. You have to know that you can share information if it's true. If you have true information, you can share it. That's pretty much how it works. It's slander if the person can prove it's false. We've talked about this with regards to Brittany Galvin and other scenarios this year. Nick told Steve that The Bachelor in some ways has impacted his life negatively, and he said Steve had impacted his life in negative ways also. However, Nick said Steve has definitely caused more personal stress for him than the show. So it's an interesting conversation here because on one hand, Nick has made his career off of The Bachelor, so have a lot of people. But that can be done without the collateral damage of the negativity that, look, we all have conversations that go on behind the scenes that we don't want aired out. We all have text messages. Whose job is it to play God? Whose job is it to release the text messages, whether they're true or not? Even if they are true, that might damage someone in a public light, knowing full well the mob that surrounds us always pushes that pendulum way past fair and just wrecks everything in between. We know that's how it works. The juice is never worth the squeeze. They just pulverize it. That's just how it works. You can't put that cat back in the bag. So anyway, Christine, so this is where the levees are starting to break, as it were, okay? With all due respect to my friends in New Orleans, as a metaphor, the levees on Steve's ethics of journalism are breaking here. Christina Schulman pours some reality Steve tea right into the gutter, and frankly, I'm here for it. Drag him, says the Post. In recent events of the Bachelor bubble, our gossip queen, Reality Steve, is finally being called out for his snotty behavior. It is time to stop giving this man a platform and a voice to speak on other people's lives. Thank you, Chatty Broads, for getting the conversation started. I'm with you. So in response to the brave conversation by Chatty Broads, you're seeing other contestants release the shackles and go, you know what? I am only friends with him because I'm afraid he's going to slander me. I am only friends with him because he has dirt on me. And how many people out there, you and I included, have a nude photo, have things we said in the past, have dirt that would look really bad if it was shared. We thought we've moved on. We thought we've evolved. And for these, Becca Martinez to, they say at the end of the podcast, they're like worried and scared that they're even reading what's already out there because they feel like he's going to release the hounds on them. So I think what we need to look for is this. I'm of no moral lifeguard tower looking down on you guys. I critically think and understand that there are a lot of good people out there that have learned from their mistakes. And in most cases, we're all trying the best with the information that we have. We have people like Victoria Fuller, who, by all accounts, she said she's a born-again Christian. She's saving herself from marriage, even if she wasn't, and she wanted to bang a new guy every night. Do whatever you want with your body, okay? But Victoria Fuller claps back to critics who ask her why she was such a disaster on The Bachelor. We watched her on The Bachelor, and she had some tough conversations. She had a lot of reckoning to do with how she communicated. These are problems we see in others. It's so fascinating because we see this in our exes, in our current relationships. We see it in the mirror when we look at ourselves. So with her scenario, back before what truly was the most dramatic season in Bachelor history, Reality Steve spoke out about the Virginia Beach native on his Twitter page. The blogger, who is famous for spoiling the endings of The Bachelor, The Bachelorette, and Bachelor in Paradise, spoke about what he'd heard about Fuller's character. Reality Steve shared that he'd received more negative information about Fuller than any other contestant in the franchise's history. This left Fuller to contend with countless homewrecker accusations before the show even begun airing. But despite the claims that Fuller was the root cause for multiple marriages ending, she still managed to capture the attention of The Bachelor. In fact, Weber was so enamored by her that she made it all the way to the fantasy suite week before he chose to eliminate her and continue his journey with Hannah Ann Sluss and Madison Pruitt. So, look, I'm not here to speak for Victoria Fuller's moral fiber. I'm just here to say she tried the best with the information she could have, and people had their opinions about her before the show even aired. And I don't think that's too fair. I don't love the way Bachelor edits people into villains, and they need a redemption episode at the end of every season where they can really break down the villains, even people like Queen Victoria Larson. I don't think she's a horrible person. I think she learned a lot about herself. I think she probably hid behind her sense of humor and thought she was the girl who was like, couldn't compete with everyone else on looks, so she became like the bully fun girl. Look, I think I'd like to give all of them a pass. Even the Chad Johnsons, who clearly has whatever issues he's had from his past and his mother passing and all. I mean, everyone's got issues. It doesn't mean we don't hold them accountable. It just means we have a more difficult conversation about it, and we don't just assume that they're villains and they're bad people. Even in Oscar-winning movies, as Rachel Lindsay will tell you, she was at the Oscars last night, the best Oscar-winning movies are the ones where we even like the villain because we know that they're complex and we know that they're torn and there's multiple layers to it all. Whereas The Bachelor just wants to make a villain. And sometimes I think Reality Steve just wants to show the negative in people and say, look, hey, this is what I do. I share the info that's given to me. Well, that's kind of a cop-out. It's kind of a cop-out to just share the information that's given to you when that information can literally damage someone for life. It's collateral damage. And I found this quote and I really liked it. Sometimes we're just the collateral damage in someone else's war against themselves. I'm not saying Reality Steve has a war against himself. I'm saying we all are going through struggles, and we're riding that wave runner way too fast in a no-wake zone, and we're going to knock somebody off of their the stand-up paddleboard. That was way too specific. I am sorry to that man in Cabo. No, I'm kidding. But the truth is we cast a wake. We cast a wake, and that's collateral damage. So I think Reality Steve has changed in a lot of ways. He's written. We've made, episodes. If anyone wants to go check out the Chatty Broads video, I highly recommend it because it's damning what he was saying and slut shaming about people. And being engaged to my fiance, who's a professional model, I see the terrified look in her face that people are going to come out to get her for her voicing her opinions. She's had to struggle with supporting her progressive causes, knowing that she gets hate on it online and people say, you're not good looking enough to share your political views. I mean, it's horrible what strangers will say to people online. And the point is it's horrible enough for the anonymous and what they say online. We need to be more responsible with those that report on The Bachelor, with those that report spoilers like Reality Steve. And if any spoilers are thrown my way, I can't promise you that I would report Jenna Cooper. I can't promise you I would report Grace and Matt James. I just don't know. I don't know. I just see issues and I go, do I need... Knowing the collateral damage that it will be caused, is it worth whatever short-term profits I get? Or can we just discuss the things like Dale and Claire getting back together? Can we discuss the fun, sure, if paparazzi are going to get a photo of Rachael Kirkconnell leaving Matt James' apartment, sure, we can talk about it, but do we really need to know that he texts someone and that whole situation? I don't know. You guys tell me. And I know people might say, hey, if I'm dating Matt James, I'd want to know that myself, and I can understand that. But like I said, the pitchforks of the mob mentality have pushed that ball right past the fairgrounds and just destroyed everything in between. And it's 2021, folks. It's not about who we were yesterday or the day before. It's about where we're going moving forward. And the show doesn't seem to be going anywhere. I think we should be using our platforms to call out things that we don't think are fair, but also understand that a lot of these contestants are dealing with a world that several years earlier they would have never known they're dealing with, and they're learning and growing, and aren't we all? So let's not assume that we're better than them because we're on the other side of the keyboard. Let's just give people the benefit of the doubt. Leave a comment. I'd love to know what you think. If anyone ever has spoilers that they want to give me, I'll look at them. And if it sounds like something that we can do in a fair way, if it sounds like something, if it's like a season spoiler, that's easy to do. We'll make a video, spoiler, if you don't want to watch it, fine. But that's just not, it doesn't feel like my lane to want to take people that might have learned from their past and hold them accountable to that day by day. I mean, the internet doesn't go away. I don't know, folks. Let me know what you guys think. That's this video. We're going live at 4 p.m. for the live stream. Thursday's live stream is my birthday live stream at 4 p.m. as well. So we'll see you there for those. Bye now.